welcome into the FCC Talk podcast. I am your host, John Rhodes, the Children and Family Minister here at First Christian Church. And today I have joining with me Shaylee Stance, our We Kids director, to discuss a recent report put out there about the state of the Bible in 2025. Going to be an interesting report. But first, let's go to Shaylee. Shaylee, how you doing today? How's things going?
I'm good. It's exciting that we have a break in the weather and it's looking more like fall, but I don't get too excited because it's always about to warm back up. But it's been good. It's good.
Yes. I had to wear jeans and a jacket this morning because it was 50 degrees, and I checked the kids' temperature in their bedrooms, and it was like mid 60s. I was like, holy cow, here we are.
Yeah, a little chilly. I'm definitely glad I rocked the flannel today to be a little warmer. And it's cold in the office too, so
Yeah, you're in the fall spirit, that's for sure. You got the flannel and everything today, so. Well, we've got an interesting conversation here today. So, as I said, State of the Bible in America, their report from the American Bible Society came out here recently. I believe it was within the last month. And they have some interesting statistics in there that I want to discuss with you, Shaylee, and kind of get your thoughts on. So the first thing we'll discuss is a quote from the Chief Innovation Officer of the American Bible Society, John Farquhar. I think that's how you say it. Last names get a little crazy, but John says people's lives improve when they engage with their church, not just attending, but using their gifts, developing relationships, and taking advantage of opportunities to grow spiritually. Now, he is saying this based on the data coming from the study. We'll share some of those stats a little bit, but just kind of to intro the study and kind of one of the main takeaways from it, that was what John took away. Shaylee, I'm curious your thoughts. What is it about church engagement, and not just attendance, but like I said, church engagement, using your gifts, stuff like that, growing spiritually, that improves your life in your opinion?
Well, I know when we first started coming, one of the first ministries, I guess you could say, that I got involved in was our communion ministry, when we were still like passing the trays and the cups and stuff. And it was behind the scenes, but it was just enough to like feel impactful. You knew that I knew it had to be done, and it was like nice to get involved and kind of get to know a few people to do it. And my grandma like forced me to do it too. But it was nice to be like kind of behind the scenes. So that was like just kind of get my feet wet and do that. And then I joined the worship ministry and did the slides for a while, which was like, again, behind the scenes, but still involved. And you knew like it was, that's an important part of a Sunday morning and getting things going. And our worship team needs their lyrics and our pastors need their outlines. And, but you didn't have to be like in front of anybody. You didn't have to be seen, but you're still involved. Like I was still involved in all that. And then the opportunity arose to be the We Kids director. And I struggled, like even attempting to want to be part of it. And I had every excuse, like I had a full-time job and I just didn't have the time. And that was a big commitment. And then I had to laugh when I was the only one to apply to the position. But just looking back, I mean, I've been the We Kids director for 5 years, and I think I'm the longest standing person that's been in this position. I don't know if that, like for a while, I know it
since
was
I've been here for sure.
Yeah, like it's kind of a high turnover thing. But I don't know that I'd want to do anything else now. Like I love coming every week to like be in the office and get stuff ready, but like every Sunday morning seeing the kids and like each week just seeing how more confident they get coming, and when they're running and jumping in my arms, like it's just so satisfying to know like I'm getting fulfillment from God because I'm involved in my church and I can see the growth that people have. But then I know like I'm making a difference in little ones' lives because, I've been told numerous times where, my kid was scared about something and they stopped and they prayed. And I know that you planted that seed in them, or we just nurture the seed that's planted somewhere else. And yeah, I looking back, like there are some days where I'm like, oh man, I just want to go to church and I want to go home. But like coming to church, being in the worship, and then serving in another um, service, I guess, because
Hmm.
I'm attend one, serve one.
Because you
But
go to first service, but then you serve in
yeah,
Sunday
but
school and second service.
staying and serving and just being part of that. And even with my volunteers, like I enjoy the company of spending time with those people and building that relationship too. So it's helped overall just connect and be connected with people at church every week. So I think it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that what you find, not just in our daily lives, but also in scripture, is community forming. And God didn't make us to go through these lives alone. God made us to be with other people, to communicate, to live life together with other people. And it's been said so many times. However, it's such a true statement that the people you surround yourself with are, it is kind of going to be the definition of what your life is going to be. And if you're going to surround yourself with people in church, people who share the same values, the same goals with you, maybe you don't go over to their house every single day, but at the
Right.
very least, you're still serving with them. It's an impactful part of your life. And in some cases, you can get involved in a life group. I mean, I would encourage everybody to be in a life group, but that continues that kind of community there as well.
Yeah.
In Ephesians, it talks about the body and working together as a church. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 16, it says, "From him the whole body, joined and knit together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work." And I think sometimes we see that verse just talking about like, okay, the arm serves the body and everything else, and while it is true, yes, we are a part of the church, of course, the body being the metaphor here for the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's also true that every other ligament, every other part of the body is also supporting one another. So not only are you humbling yourself and, serving something higher than yourself, but you also have others who are supporting you as well. And overall, I mean, just support, people being there for you, that kind of stuff helps mental health and everything
Yeah.
so much more. It's no wonder that people who are more involved in church, you can definitely get burnout. I get that, but people who are involved in church in a healthy way, they experience a lot of this kind of improved life mechanics and things like that.
Yeah. I think people see too how much work goes into running a church and running a program that happens at church. I think our VBS volunteers really get a taste of that the week of VBS, of how much behind the scenes stuff that me, you, and Chris are working on that they don't even have to think about, but it's running through our minds. But then they kind of see like, okay, this is why things are done this way, and this is all the pieces and parts to put this together, and it all comes together. But the more people that step into those roles, the less it takes. I mean, it's that whole thing with, give me your yoke. And, if the more people that are carrying the load, the less it has to do. That's why, like, I would love to honestly have 30 volunteers in Week Kids so that nobody has to work more than once a month. Like, but as it is right now, we just don't have all that involvement. So they try to do like once a month, but sometimes it's twice a month. But they are
Hmm.
all great, and they all love being with the kids. So it's not like I'm really twisting their arm too hard to come back there. But if we had more involvement from more people, then it would be less work for others. So I
Hmm.
think that's part people don't really see too, is it's more enjoyable when more people are doing it because you don't get that burnout feeling.
Correct. Correct. Shaylee, a majority of highly churched, engaged individuals, 62% in the study, also experience the highest level of human flourishing, as they call it, which is kind of what we talked about with the improved life structure, better mental health, less anxiety, stuff like that. With only 8% of those people who are highly engaged in church experiencing low flourishing in the report. Now, I understand these terms can, think, oh, well, what are we exactly getting at here? The point is, people who are more engaged in church are normally flourishing more in their daily lives, not just in church, but in their daily lives, parenting, friendships, tons of different areas.
Yeah.
Should we be discussing more of this stuff when it comes to our unchurched friends, or maybe just our friends who maybe go to church but aren't really all that involved and are just kind of like, yeah, I come on Sunday once or twice a month, something like that?
Um, I mean, with grace, for sure. Like, you don't ever want somebody to feel guilty that they're not involved. But if you're leading by example and you're constantly involved and showing how your life has improved, not bragging about it, but just talking about it, and oh, I feel so much better because I've done this. And I think your actions, your attitude, and just when people are like, what is going on? What is different with you? I've seen this change. That's when you can be like, well, I started getting involved at church. Like, I do this and I do this and I'm with this group of people. Like, I know even just meeting at my house once a week with a group of us, like, yes, every intention was supposed to be a Bible study. The first week, we all just started kind of like opening up with some like icebreakers. And now we just talk about life. And even that has improved relationships with people here at church, because we see each other, but we don't really know each other. So now we're getting to know each other. But I've seen a positive in other people by just coming to my house once a week and enjoying a meal together and having a discussion. So even if it's not a ministry at church, but a life group, like we said before, like just getting involved in that, iron sharpens iron, the people that you keep company with, it's all connected. Like, the closer you are to God and the closer you are to people that are going close to God, like, it all just improves everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people are like, what is up with them? What's going on? And that's when you're like, well, we go to church together, and we grow closer to God together, and we do life together. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an
Yeah, I
example
think that's
of keying
sorry,
in.
I'm going to cut you off.
No, you're okay.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's a really important part of, the helping other people understand involvement in church is, we're not perfect by any means, but, just helping exemplify, what it means that we're not, so burnout and everything's terrible, "Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, but really the enjoyment that comes out of this. We are much more likely to voice our negative feelings than we are our positive feelings. And so we do need to do a good job of making sure we voice those positive feelings about, oh, it was so good to be back there with the kids today, and voicing, hey, Johnny, like you said, Johnny prayed when he got a cut this week or something like that. They're three, and that helps them to recognize relying on God. That's important. I also think it is important, as you kind of talked about at the beginning here, that we also do need to push people to serve and be more engaged in church. And not to be pushy in a rude way. However, we do need to make sure people understand that if you're going to go to church, you should be involved, just as you should forgive people if you're going to be a follower of Christ, just as you should love people and see them the way that God sees them. If you're going to be involved in the church, then you need to actually be involved. It's the semi-regular church attendance and the not really involved, not really using my giftedness that kind of seems to, in most cases, fit that lukewarm category that the
Yeah.
Bible speaks about in Revelation, where it's either be hot or cold. The lukewarm, I'll spit you out. If we are just going through the motions and, yeah, we go to church, but we're not really involved, that is not the direction, that is not the plan that God has in our lives. And as we'll see here a little bit later when we go into the study, if you go to church, there are aspects of your life, if you're not involved, you can be almost as worse off as somebody who doesn't go to church at all, because you're not involved, you're not engaged, and you're not actually, in the community. I shouldn't say you're not in the community, but you're not as closely knit within the community as you could be if you were more involved.
Yeah. And I mean, I think sometimes I have a disadvantage of being the wee kids director, because I don't see a lot of people, especially at second service. Like, if you don't have small children, I don't know who you are. But I also hate that I don't know who you are. Like, when we're doing attendance and stuff for the staff meetings, and who is so and so? And I'm like, I have no idea who that is. Like, I hate that part because, I'm in leadership here and I'm on staff here. And not just because I'm on staff, but because I'm involved. I want to know who people are. I don't ever want to have a moment where I'm like, I have no idea who that is. I couldn't put a face, with the name. Or I don't want people to not know who I am. Like, I want people to know who I am, like, and not just as the We Kids director, but like, there's a lot of other things that I do for the church, for the school, that I'll happily do for the daycare. You know what I mean? Like, I'm involved in a lot of places, and when people don't know who I am, I'm like, well, what haven't I done to even introduce myself to someone? And introducing yourself is awkward. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's hard whenever you're like, hi, I'm, so and so, what's your name? But I feel like that's another part of it, is some people just want to come in and go to church and get what they want. And they don't want to be known, and they don't, and that's why there's a bigger church close by that kind of draws people, because they can disappear in the crowd. But that's not what we're called to do. We're called to be in fellowship and be together and be community and work together. I mean, there's so many opportunities within this church. Like, I love how Jerry and Megan redid the Grow and Serve board. And I think it's great that there's so many options for us to get involved just here at our church. And some stuff's behind the scenes, some stuff's in front of people. But there's something that no matter what your talent is or what you think your lack of talent is, we can absolutely use you here. And we want you here. And we want to know you, and we want to know more about you, and we want you to get to know other people. So I think it's important. It's important to get involved.
For sure. For sure. Well, that was actually would be where I go next, is try to put some of the ownership on the church, because we are kind of, I wouldn't say being accusatory here, but are talking about, what people in the church need to do. But the church overall, the leaders and people like that also have, things that they need to do here as well. Only 35% of people who attend church weekly say that their best friend is at the church that they go to. They attend church weekly. That means they're, most likely pretty involved in the church. Only 35% of people say that their best friend is at church, and then only 44% of people who attend church weekly, in that same group, say that they have an opportunity to use their giftings within the church. Shaylee, there's two clear areas here that the church needs to improve, in my opinion. How can churches, or maybe just our church in general, improve at getting people involved in creating closer community and also areas for people to use their giftings and serve?
So please don't attack me, anybody that's listening to this that attends our church. I love you all. But I can say there have been times where even I personally have tried to get involved with something and felt like such an outsider and never felt welcome. And I hate that feeling. I don't think it was intentional. Everyone here is very kind and very loving. So I don't want to anybody think that someone was stuck up and wasn't kind. Everyone is kind. Everyone's very loving. What happens is we've always done it this way mentality. And when you come in with new ideas, then you kind of get a little like pushback from that. And again, I don't think it's intentional. I don't even think people realize that that's what they're doing sometimes. So then you just don't feel like you can be involved in that. You feel like they already have their community. They're very tight, and it's very hard for them to open up to you and let new people in. But then on the other side of that, it's, well, we really need people to be involved because we're tired of doing this. Like, okay, well, I'm trying to be involved and kind of like help the next generation take over what the older generation is kind of tired of doing, but yet the older generation doesn't want to let go, and there's no like balance. So even here, I can see where it's hard for people to get involved because, well, I've tried to get involved and I didn't feel welcome. Okay, I get that, but I don't think that was the intention. Like, nobody is ever intentionally not welcoming you. I think they just are scared of a little change, and that's okay. Everyone's scared of a little change, but there's somewhere you can be absolutely involved. And I'm excited to see, there's a new Bible study that's starting for women that's in the evening, because I know that's a big thing that, a lot of us younger people, we're not retired. We can't do an 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. We need a 5:30, 6:30 Wednesday night. We've talked about, I've heard a couple people say that they really liked at a previous church how they had a full Sunday service on Wednesday because not everybody can attend Sunday morning. And that's what I grew up with. I grew up with Wednesday night services, and they were packed because all the people that unfortunately had jobs that they had to work on Sunday, and that's where they got involved. And it was just that extra community, and the kids programming I attended was awesome. Like, we earned ways to go to camp and stuff. So I think here at First Christian Church, like, I would love to see that if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, I want to be involved in this, like, don't make them feel like they're not included, even if you don't realize that's what you're doing. Like, if they stop attending your meeting or your group or whatever, like, make sure you reach out to them. Like, and I'm telling myself this too, because I've had people coming to my house that haven't been coming, and or helped in week kids that haven't helped in a while. And I'm really bad about checking in with people, and I don't mean to be. It's just out of sight, out of mind is kind of the person that I am, and that's just me. But I do know from experience myself that I've tried to get involved in something and just didn't feel welcomed. And it wasn't a, we don't want you here. It was just, this is how we do things, and this is what works for us. And that just didn't work for me. So I think that for me is another part of what I see on our end. Like, and I don't know how to fix that as a leader. Like, I can't, but I know you see it too. Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's reality. I mean, a lot of churches struggle with cliques and things like that, forming, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that people are closely knit together, but we also need to make sure that we are not stuck in the same mode that, we are just expecting every single person to come in and to assimilate to every single
Right.
idea that we have. That does happen, and,
Yeah.
that can be good to have that leadership structure, but we also need to make sure that we are inviting people to stand up and start new ministries or take on new things like that. Sometimes for us as church leaders, that can be a little scary to think, oh, should this person really do this or do that, because it is change and it is entrusting a person to do something. But in reality, we also need to look at the person's heart. That's what God says. He didn't look at physical appearance. 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7, he didn't look at physical appearance, he looks at the heart. And we need to make sure that we as church leaders are doing that as well. And also too, I mean, if we're just being real for a second, at this church, we do have a lot of paid positions here, which is great. I think that it's awesome that people are being paid their time, and it does show the value of the people, but it also can inhibit things at times if we have the mentality of, well, I can only do that if I get paid because this person gets paid. And that can inhibit people from coming in and, starting something. I was just having a conversation the other day with a mom who was talking about how, it would be awesome if we started getting to, some farmers markets and stuff like that. And she'll see this and she'll know what I'm talking about. And I love that idea. I think it would be great if we were out in the community more, doing more of this stuff. And the thought process, that I first went to was, okay, well, who on staff or who, and I didn't voice this, but I thought to myself, who on staff or who could we hire to make this happen? And it was just kind of like a shock reminder point for me to remember, like, this doesn't need to be a staff position. This doesn't need to be something that somebody is paid for. People can just volunteer to do big things like this, and we can want to try and, help incentivize them and show you how much they're valued. But at the end of the day, people in the church can stand up and just say, look, this is something we need to do, and we're going to go out and do that type of thing, which to me is really, really important to do.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I think too, and I've heard it voiced a few times, like, we have great things for newborn to 12th grade, and we have great things for if you're retired, but we don't have anything for everybody in the middle. And there are some things kind of popping up, like, one of our college students started a college age group Bible study at her house, and I think that's awesome. And I know, like, a couple.
And we should be empowering that, right? We should,
Right,
be
yeah,
working alongside
we
them,
should be
leading
working
with
alongside.
them.
There should be leadership working with them to ensure that not only do we have something at somebody's house, but like here on a Sunday morning, there is something for the college age kids. There's, a lot of times there are things that you feel like it's only for couples. And so like our widows and our women that are divorced, or even our women that are single that just haven't found that relationship yet, they feel kind of lost. Or the same for men. Like we have widowers, we have divorcees, we have, young men that just haven't found someone yet. That I think some of these age groups are getting kind of lost in the cracks, and they don't really know where they fit in, because we have older married couples and, seasoned married couples, and we have brand new married couples that are still very young, and we have seasoned parents and new parents. And so I think we have such a wide demographic of people, and a lot of us, like I'm grandkids of members that have been here for years, and we have kids of members, but they're adults now. And so they're like, okay, I'm still somebody's kid, but yet I'm an adult and I just got married, or I'm just finished college and I'm, engaged or whatever. And so we have this age group of people that are kind of missed in what we offer, because I think we do have that mentality of, well, it needs to be a staff person, or it needs to be an elder, or it needs to be a deacon, when it doesn't have to be at all. They just need our support from leadership on staff, or deacons or elders or whatever. They just need our support. And they, we're here if you need us, but like, you're doing a great job. Like, go for it, get it. And it's encouraging to see that grow, because, and I've been one of those voices, like, well, do it, like, start it. Like, you don't really have to have our permission to do something outside of the church. Just ask us if you need to use the church, and more than likely we're going to tell you yes. Like, yeah, we'll make sure you've got keys. Just make sure you clean up after yourself. And if you need anything, we're a text away. We offer that. I just don't think people realize that, because again, we've had that, like, well, should it be a staff person? Do we need to hire someone? And we don't. Like, if you want to take charge of that, do it. Like, and we are here to support you, and we'll give you what you need or whatever. So, but that's
empowering people.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I have, women at my house, and we're getting ready to take a little trip to Nashville, Indiana. And, we're trying to do life together and grow those relationships, and it's working. We're growing closer and individually, and doing things outside of my house. And yeah, it makes a difference for sure.
Love it. All right, well, this is the last thing we'll hit on, Shaylee, and then we will end the episode here. I alluded to it earlier, but nominal Christians, as a survey says, that's those who say they're Christian but either rarely or do not attend church. They have nearly the same levels as non-Christians, and when it comes to anxiety and less hope. So people who say they're Christians, they believe in God. They may sometimes attend church, but not all that often, or just don't attend church at all. It says that they are actually experiencing more anxiety than those who go to church, at a similar rate to those who do not believe in God or do not attend church or are not Christians. And they experience less hope, the same as those people to you. Shaylee, is it surprising to you that just as many non-church goers, or Christians but don't go to church, say they're Christian, experience a similar amount of anxiety and other struggles as non-church goers, non-Christians, type of people do?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I can think of a couple people right off the top of my head that, like, when they don't attend regularly, their life spirals out of control, because they forget that, number one, you're not in control of anything except for how you react to something. God's in control. He's got it. And the more you try to hold on, the more out of control you're going to feel. But the less I see individuals come to church on a regular basis, the more I see their life spiral out of control. The less I'm involved in reading or listening to my Bible every day, the more out of control I feel like my life is. The more I disobey, especially with tithing, the more my life feels out of control. So, like, I could see somebody who's never even given the hope of Jesus Christ constantly living in a state of anxiety. Like, I know a few people that, like, they're always in a state of anxiety. And I'm like, Do you know Jesus? Because like he needs to he needs to take some of that from you, and you need to give that up. But then the people that I'm like, I know that you know darn good and well that if you would go to church every day, even if you just aren't feeling it, like I get it. I don't, there are some Sundays that it's hard for me to get out of bed, but by the time I'm here and I'm hearing the message and getting the reminder, and there are times where Chris is in a chapter and he starts reading a verse that I keep reading the rest of the chapter because I'm so locked into what God is specifically telling me to listen to him, that like Chris is making great points, but I'm I'm gonna listen to God for a minute. Like, and sometimes you have to. And like even just hearing Chris or you or Dan, whoever's on the, whoever's given the message for the day, like hearing those reassurances of the words that God has right in front of me, like it makes such a difference because sometimes you just need that reminder. And what I like about attending regularly and coming is that you guys have been given the tools to dissect and re-explain the Bible when sometimes it's hard to understand. So like you guys have already been through that, So anytime anybody has a question, you're there to answer it. When you don't have that at home, and you can't use AI for some of that. Like I need a real life person that I can say, this is what I read, this is what I'm feeling, this is the discernment that I might be feeling. What tools can you give me to work through this? And you guys are all here to help, And I think when you don't attend church regularly, you forget that you have those people. And that's another part. Like it's all about community. Like when you're not here on a regular basis, you forget there are people here that care about you. There are people that notice that you're gone. They may not reach out to you on the phone or come to your house, but like we notice that you're not here, and like you notice that you're not here. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's noticeable. And if you're thinking, oh man, what's going on in my life? Like what's different? That's it. That's it right there. Like you need that connection. You need God to speak to you. And sometimes he's speaking to you here and sometimes he's speaking to you at home, but like it's here. It's
Mm-hmm.
with people. It's being the church. Maybe it's not inside this building, but like it's the people that you're connecting with too. Like it's very obvious. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
surprising to me at all that people that don't attend regularly have the same anxiety of people who've never stepped foot. It's not
Mm-hmm.
surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much more than just, saying, oh, I believe in God, or, oh, I'm a Christian. There's so much more that goes with that, that goes into our daily lives and everything else. I mean, we have discussed it multiple times, and we will bring it up to parents, sometimes when kids feel like, everything's out of whack and everything's crazy and they're kind of experiencing anxiety, or maybe they're just experiencing anxiety about coming back to church. Kids need a schedule, and honestly, adults are not all that much different than
Right.
kids. Something I've recognized in my life and in other people's lives. Like we require a schedule, we require, consistency in our lives just like kids do.
Yeah.
And when things start going out of whack, that can oftentimes kind of make us in our mental states and our relationship with God and things like that kind of go out of whack as well. I guess the final Bible verse I'll share here, and we can get your final thoughts on the episode here, Shaylee, and then we'll be done. Is 1 Peter chapter 5 verses 6 through 7. Just read this in chapel earlier today, but it says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you." I think the part that often gets not talked about enough in this verse, we'd like the thought about, God exalting us, casting your anxieties on him, and he cares about you. Those are all great. But what are we required to do? We are required to humble ourselves. And church is a big thing about that. Humbling your own wants or desires, humbling what it is that you think you need or don't need, humbling yourself and saying, listen, I need to go and be, in church, be with God today, reading my Bible. I need to do that. I cannot do it on my own. I'm going to humble myself. I know my family needs it. I know my kids need it, whatever it might be, but humbling ourselves and saying, I can't do this alone. I need to be with God. I need to obey Him. I need to trust Him. I need to follow Him. And whether we like it or not, a lot of that is, kind of comes together in just one easy thing of attending church, right? Attending church, being involved in church. That's kind of what the whole message of, I guess, this episode is that when we humble ourselves, when we are attending church, when we are involved in church, ultimately it does cast out our anxieties, lift us up to God, and remind us how much He cares about us. Shaylee, any final thoughts?
I just, if you are somebody who has a lot of questions, I highly recommend watching The Chosen on Amazon Prime. Like, it's a slow start. It's a little rough to get into, but if you want to just kind of see God's word put to live action, it's a great resource. Like, I'm kind of sad Amazon Kevin needs to update his Amazon Prime because I'm episodes behind now because I was watching it every night. But watching that every night, attending church every week, I listen to my Bible app when I go to sleep. That's my white noise as I'm listening to it. It gives you some weird dreams, I'll tell you that much. When you're like, God, give me what you want me to know, your dreams are going to get a little wild. But just watching The Chosen and seeing God's word put in live action, and they've done a great job with it. It really just reminds you, like, number one, Jesus was absolutely a human being. He's hilarious. Like, they've done a very good job of giving Jesus personality off the pages that we've read about him. But it's so humbling to watch it and just see the disciples go through things. Like, it's absolutely, they've given it some extra stuff for drama, and the way they've kind of connected some of the pieces and parts is really cool. But like, if you just need that humble reminder that we're all human, we're all sinners, we're all going to make mistakes, but God loves us through all of that, and He cares for us. And we do get a little cocky sometimes, because Peter's probably my favorite, or Simon, before he's changed his name to Peter. Like, he's probably become my favorite disciple because he's arrogant about things and he just wants to do things a certain way. And Jesus constantly reminds him, like, it's not your call, like, it's my call. So it's a good resource that if you just need that reminder, like, just watch it and just ask God to speak to you through it, and it's worth it. If you're struggling, I would definitely recommend The Chosen on Amazon Prime to, like, dive into. It's helped.
All right. Well, there you go. Thank you so much for being on this episode of FCC
Thanks,
Talk
Bob.
with us, Shaylee, and we'll have Dan next week, and CJ will kind of go through a rotation a little bit and go through it that way. If you ever have anything you would like for us to talk about on FCC Talk or anything like that, please do send me an email, jrhodes@fccbrazil.org. Same thing with the Biblically Literate podcast. You can always email me if you have any questions or any verses or anything like that you would like me to cover on those as well. So thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.